In the heart of Borneo's dense, mist-drenched jungles, there lies a story whispered only in hushed voices, a tale known only by the oldest villagers in Sabah. They speak of a hidden wooden cabin, untouched by time, where those who enter never truly return. Not because they vanish, but because time itself ceases to exist inside its walls. Watches stop, shadows don't move, and the sun never sets or rises again. Daniel Reyes, a popular myth hunter and documentary creator on YouTube, had heard these whispers through a local online forum dedicated to Southeast Asian folklore. He had spent years chasing the supernatural across the globe, from haunted islands in the Philippines to abandoned temples in Thailand. But this legend was different. According to one elderly villager, the cabin appeared randomly to those who were ready to see it. What that meant, no one could quite explain. Some claimed it was a curse. Others believed it was a remnant of an old ritual gone wrong. Regardless, Daniel's curiosity was piqued. He had made a career out of unraveling myths, and this one promised the greatest mystery yet. He posted a teaser to his channel, Next Stop, the place where time stands still. The video went viral. Fans flooded the comments, both excited and fearful. But Daniel remained focused. He was determined to find the truth behind the legend of the time cabin. Daniel arrived in Kota Kinabalu, the capital city of Sabah, with 2 members of his crew, Maya, his sound engineer, and Felix, the cameraman. Both were seasoned travelers, having followed Daniel into haunted ruins and ghost towns before. But this trip felt different. The energy was heavier. The air, charged with something unseen. They rented a rugged off-road vehicle and drove for hours into the Bornean interior, leaving paved roads behind as dense jungle swallowed the narrow dirt paths. Occasionally, they'd pass small wooden houses on stilts. The villagers there would pause and watch them in silence. A few elderly locals made strange hand gestures, not of welcome, but of warning. At a dusty roadside stall, Daniel spoke with an old woman selling handmade talismans. When he mentioned the cabin, her eyes widened. She spoke softly, in Malay, but Maya translated. "That place is not a place," the woman said. "It is a pocket, a trap. Some come back older. Some come back, different. But most never come back at all." Daniel smiled politely, thanked her, and bought one of her talismans, a small bundle of dried herbs and feathers tied with red thread. Maya was noticeably unsettled, but Daniel dismissed the warnings as part of the legend's charm. After all, every good myth needed a foreboding elder with cryptic advice. By sunset, they reached the edge of the mapped region. Beyond this point, there were no more roads, only trails and whispers. Guided by an old GPS file shared by a Malaysian urban explorer years ago, Daniel plotted their route into the jungle. According to the file, the cabin had last been seen near a river bend deep within the rainforest. As they made camp that night under the thick canopy, the forest around them grew unnaturally quiet. No insects chirped, no birds called. Just silence, the kind that presses against your skin. Felix whispered, "Feels like the trees are listening." Daniel only nodded. Tomorrow, they would enter the unknown. Morning broke, but there was no sunrise, only a pale, gray light that filtered through the fog-drenched canopy. The trio packed up camp quickly, their movements brisk and silent, as if speaking too loudly might awaken something slumbering nearby. The jungle was thick, unforgiving. Vines tangled around their ankles, leeches clung to their boots, and the air was wet with humidity and decay. But after nearly 6 hours of trudging through mud and tangled roots, Felix, who had been scanning the area with a drone, froze. "I see something," he said. "About 200 meters north, past that ridge. Wooden structure." Heartbeats quickened. They pressed forward, now with purpose. The trees thinned just slightly at the top of the ridge, revealing a small clearing swallowed in mist. There it stood, the cabin. Old, leaning, but intact. Its roof was moss-covered, and its windows blackened like eyes that had forgotten how to blink. The front door was slightly ajar, creaking softly in the breeze, though the air around them was still. As they stepped into the clearing, something odd happened. Maya's wristwatch beeped and then stopped. Felix's camera blinked off and wouldn't restart. Even Daniel's compass spun in confused circles. "Is this magnetic interference?" Maya asked, frowning. "No," Daniel replied slowly. "This is something else." They approached the cabin cautiously. The air grew colder, denser. Even the sound of their footsteps seemed muted. Daniel placed his hand on the wooden frame. It was cold, unnaturally cold for the tropical heat around them. Inside, the cabin was filled with dust but otherwise untouched. No signs of life, no mold, no decay. A small wooden table, 2 chairs, an old oil lamp, and a stack of notebooks, yellowed but dry. Felix began filming with his backup camera. "Batteries draining fast," he muttered. "Like, unusually fast." As they explored the space, Daniel noticed the strangest thing: the shadows inside didn't move. He watched the same slant of light on the floor for 10 minutes, and it remained unchanged, like a photograph. "Guys," he said, barely above a whisper. "I think we're already inside the anomaly." The longer they stayed in the cabin, the stranger things became. Minutes bled into hours, but the ambient light outside never shifted. Time, as they knew it, no longer moved. Daniel flipped through the old notebooks, his fingers trembling. The handwriting changed styles over the pages, cursive to block letters, neat to frenzied. The entries weren't dated, but described the same feeling again and again: time pausing, echoes that repeat, and something called the Mirror Man. Meanwhile, Maya sat on the wooden floor, adjusting the remaining audio equipment. She paused. "Daniel, do you hear that?" A sound, faint at first, like footsteps outside. Then again. But when they checked through the windows, no one was there. The trees stood still, as though caught in breathless anticipation. Felix, reviewing the drone footage, suddenly gasped. He rewound the clip. In the video, they could be seen approaching the cabin. But in the background, just barely visible in the fog, a figure stood among the trees. Motionless. Tall. Blurred. "Who's that?" Felix asked, voice sharp. Daniel examined the footage, but when he tried to zoom in, the video glitched. The figure vanished. The file corrupted itself and shut down the entire device. The battery, 78% moments ago, now blinked red. They decided to search the cabin again. In a back corner, hidden behind a broken panel in the wall, Daniel found something chilling: a mirror, small and covered in black cloth. An old note was nailed to it: "Do not uncover." He sees through this. Maya whispered, "Let's leave. Now." But Daniel hesitated. Something compelled him. Not fear, not exactly, but an overwhelming need to understand. To prove the legend true. That's when the floor beneath them creaked. Not from movement, but rhythmically, like a heartbeat in wood. And then, the voice. Soft, whispery. Not in any language they knew. "You've been here before." Maya backed away. Felix dropped his camera. Daniel stood frozen, staring at his reflection in the dusty window, only it wasn't mimicking him anymore. The reflection smiled. Daniel stumbled back from the window, his breath shallow. His reflection, still smiling, remained in place for a moment longer before catching up with his movements, as though the delay belonged to another reality entirely. Maya grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the door. "We need to go. Now." But Daniel resisted. His voice trembled. "I saw me. But older. Years older. In the window." Felix, still shaken, muttered, "This is messing with our heads, man. We've got to get out." But the cabin wouldn't let them leave. When they opened the door, they found not the clearing they'd entered from, but dense, unfamiliar forest. Thicker. Darker. Wrong. It was as if the cabin had shifted, or the forest had. The landmarks were gone. Their GPS failed to connect. Even the trail they marked coming in had vanished. They circled the cabin, trying to find the edge of the clearing. but every path led them back to the front door, no matter which direction they walked. That's when Daniel saw it, himself. Across the clearing, near the tree line, a figure stood. The same jacket. Same boots. But older. Hair streaked with gray, eyes sunken. The man turned and walked into the trees without a sound. "Did you see that?" Daniel whispered. Felix didn't answer. He had gone pale. He pointed to his camera, recording again. "I've filmed this already. I filmed this exact moment, days ago. But we just got here." Inside the cabin, they found more notebooks. Dozens. All written by Daniel. Each one recounting different entries of discovery, madness, and escape attempts. Some described the same events they'd just experienced, word for word. Maya opened one notebook and gasped. Inside was a sketch of her, drawn perfectly, but aged, hollow-eyed, wearing the same clothes. Daniel began to understand. The cabin wasn't a place, it was a loop. A trap. A reflection of the self, distorted and recycled through forgotten timelines. Suddenly, a voice, Daniel's own, echoed from outside the cabin. "You're almost ready to stay." Felix bolted toward the sound, but vanished into the trees. Maya screamed his name, but only silence answered. Just the humming, the deep, endless hum of time folding in on itself. Daniel stood motionless, staring at the cabin's mirror. His reflection now looked decades older. "This is how it ends," he whispered. "Or maybe how it begins." The cabin was quiet now. Still. The kind of silence that presses into the bones. Maya paced near the door, eyes wild, whispering Felix's name like a mantra. But Daniel, he sat at the table, flipping through the notebooks that bore his own handwriting, his own thoughts, yet felt written by someone else. One entry stood out. It was dated exactly 5 years into the future. Maya left today. Or thought she did. The forest only brought her back. She was different when she returned. Quieter. Grayer. She doesn't speak now. Daniel slowly looked up. Maya was standing in the corner, staring into nothing. "We were never meant to leave, were we?" she said softly, voice distant, as if carried from far away. Outside, footsteps returned. Not running, slow, deliberate. 1, 2, then silence. Daniel stood and approached the mirror once more. His reflection was no longer alone. Behind him stood the other Daniel, the older version, unmoving, eyes hollow but aware. Watching. Daniel turned, but no one was there. Then, a knock at the door. 3 times. Not rushed. Just, patient. He didn't open it. Instead, he set the camera, now working again, inexplicably, on the table. It began to record. Maya sat across from him, hands folded, expression empty. "If you find this," Daniel began, his voice low but clear, "don't look for us. Don't come here. The cabin, it's not haunted. It's not cursed. It's hungry. The footage ends there. Just static." That video was uploaded 2 weeks later, anonymously, to Daniel's channel. No title. No description. Millions viewed it. Authorities tried to trace the upload location, but the signal was scrambled and routed through a series of proxies from places no longer existing on modern maps. Daniel, Maya, and Felix were never found. Some believe they staged the whole thing. Others say the cabin is still out there, waiting for the next curious soul, willing to trade time for truth. But if you ever find yourself in the jungles of Sabah, and the forest goes quiet, turn around. Because once you see the cabin, it has already seen you.